Hi, and welcome to the Moore St. Louis Real Estate Market 2016 recap and 2017 forecast. I'm Dennis Norman, one of the broker owners at Moore Realtors, and if you give me a few minutes of your time, I'll give you a recap of what happened in the St. Louis real estate market in the past year, as well as our forecast for the coming year on what's going to happen with home sales and prices in the St. Louis real estate market. Now, to start with, let's do a little scorecard here and go back and see how our forecast for 2016 worked out. Roughly a year ago, we did a forecast for 2016, just like we're getting ready to do for 2017. And always like to go back and see how we did and show you how we did, just to show you that we are really serious here at Moore Realtors about knowing the market and staying on top of the market, on top of home sales and prices, as well as educating our agents in this area. We pride ourselves on having agents that know more about the real estate market and trends and pricing than any other company. And we use that to benefit you, our clients. So how did we do? Our forecast in terms of home sales for the past year was 24,000 homes. We forecast a pretty good year, an increase from the year before. And happy to say 2016 proved to be even better than we forecast. The actual number of homes sold came in at 27,231 homes. So as we predicted, it was a good year and an increase over the year before, but even better than we expected. For home prices, we also anticipated that being a good area for St. Louis for 2016, and we forecasted a 4.5% increase in the median price of homes sold, and we were very close on that. The actual price increase for 2016 over homes sold in the prior year for the St. Louis five-county market, which is what we're talking about here. It's the bulk of the St. Louis real estate market. It would include the city of St. Louis County, Jefferson County, Franklin County, and St. Charles County. The actual home price increase was 5.29%. So we were very, very close on home prices. On inventory of homes for sale and the supply, meaning, based upon current sales trends and inventory, how many months supply is there? We forecasted it to stay below 6 months supply for all five counties in this market, as well as for all those counties to remain in a seller's market during the year. Now, what I mean by that, the reason I picked 6 months is historically 6 months supply would be kind of a norm or an average normal amount of supply. So generally, by most people's standards, if you get below a 6 month supply in terms of the supply of homes for sale, that is favoring sellers because there's less supply. If you get over a 6 month supply, it's favoring buyers because of the additional inventory. So anyway, we had forecasted it to stay below 6 months in all all five counties for the year and remain a seller's market. What actually happened was exactly that. The supply of homes for sale stayed under 6 months in all the counties, and all the counties stayed in a seller's market. Now, of course, the degree of a seller's market in terms of whether it was a hot seller's market or kind of a cool seller's market varied by county, and once you get into the county, it varies by location, which is why you need to consult us or one of our agents to bring this down to the street level, if you will. But this is a very good overview. Just to have a little more data here from 2016 and the market there before I get into 2017. And here on this table, again, for the five-county area I'm talking about, it just has some additional details at the top that breaks down the home sales over the past year as well as the prior year. And you can see, like I said, 27,231 sales the current year. There were 25,191 the prior year. And you can see what prices have done as well. And if you go down to the bottom there of this table, you see the listing inventory supply. And as we speak, there is just over a 3 month supply of homes for sale in this five-county area. And the average time that current listings have been on the market is right at about 5 months, 155 days. This again is a table that just reiterates that information for the 5-county area, but I'm going to drill it down a little bit here. Here's for St. Louis County, and again, this shows 2016. That in this case, the home prices increased about 2.78% from 2015, and sales increased about 9.8%. That was for St. Louis County. Then we look at St. Louis City and County combined, and home prices were up about 5.5%, and sales about 5.5%. Again, this is all for 2016 versus 2017. And, I'm sorry, 15. And this is St. Charles County, where home prices were up 6%, sales up almost 9%. Jefferson County, prices up a little over 6%, and sales up nearly 8%, 7.91%. And finally, for Franklin County, they saw big increases in both areas. Home prices were up almost 11% in 2016 from the year before, and sales were up a little over 10%, 10.15% to be exact. Here's a chart that it's kind of easier to see some of these things sometimes on charts, but here's a chart that shows that 5-county core market, home sales and prices for the past year, and while there's seasonal adjustments, you'll see the peak there during spring and summer months. You see the lowest spot levels usually during January. So that's normal, but if you kind of draw a line from the left side to the right side, you'll see the overall trend for median listing price, median selling price, and number of homes sold for the 5-county area. The trend is upward in all those areas. And this is another chart that just shows some additional data points from 2016. Two of them, the black lines and the baby blue lines, represent the percentage of list price homes sold for. And there's two ways we look at this. One is the blue line, which is what percentage of the original list price did the home sell for. So, homes come out on the market, and if they're not priced appropriately, if the agent didn't do a good job or sellers didn't listen, sometimes they're not priced appropriately, so later they'll have to reduce their price, maybe once, twice, thrice. So the first thing we look at is, okay, once they finally sold, what percentage of that original price did they sell for? And that's the baby blue line. You can see during the year it went from a low of about 95% to a high of about 98% during the peak market, and then has kind of ended the year at 96%. And then the other one is the black line that shows what percentage of the current list price did they sell for. So when homes sold, based upon what they were currently at, so if they had been reduced or whatever, what percentage did they sell for. That's the black line, and it went from about 97% for a low in January to 99% during the peak market, and closed out the year at 98%. The green line shows sold price per foot, which is probably the best way to really look at home prices. And you can see that was a modest increase over the year. And the orange line's the days on market. And you can see that that peaked in the winter and has dropped and looks good. Okay, so now what we've all been waiting for, what's going to happen in 2017 with home prices and sales in the St. Louis market? And so here's my forecast for 2017, again, based upon this St. Louis 5-county core market. And I might add, we do have data for the entire metropolitan area, including the counties over in Illinois that make up the St. Louis metro area, and also for the outlying counties beyond the 5 counties we talk about here. But I focus on these 5 counties because from the St. Louis, from the Missouri side of the river, and the St. Louis market, this is the bulk of the market. So what's going to happen here? For home sales, I'm projecting about 27,000 homes sold, so pretty much the same as this past year. Not going to project an increase, but not projecting a decline either. I think we'll hopefully be able to hold steady and hold our own. Now, that's probably slightly more optimistic than what some others are saying on the national level, but we'll see. Home prices, I do not believe we'll see an increase in home prices comparable to last year, to that 5.29% we saw last year. I think the rising interest rates, and they have already risen from where, at the end of 2016, they were higher than the beginning of the year, and they're projected to rise some more. But I think the rising interest rates, along with the the prices that increased, are going to affect affordability, and which in turn is going to affect the price. So I'm still bullish on this. I think there will be an increase in home prices, but I'm anticipating an increase of 3.8% in median home prices in the coming year, or thereabouts. For inventory and supply, don't really see that changing. We expect the inventory of homes for sale to remain low in most markets. Again, real estate's very local, so there are going to be markets within these counties that this is not true, but I'm talking at this 5-county level. We do think for the counties it'll remain low. I think the supply of homes for sale will be less than 6 months throughout the year. So throughout 2017, I just think we're going to see it below that 6-month period. Most likely closer to 3 months during the peak months, like the coming spring months. But the coming year definitely looks to be continue to be a seller's market from an inventory standpoint. Now, what's the data behind the forecast? I'm not going to dwell on this long, but I do want to share some information here so you can see why I think the things I think, and why we're making these projections. And so what I'm showing here is actually something I don't think you'll see from any other company anywhere. A 10-year chart that shows this 5-county core market home sales and prices on an annual basis. So I take out all the annual seasonal fluctuations in terms of spring and winter and all that stuff. So this is just looking at it annually over a 10-year period. And it's very easy to see what has happened with home prices and sales in this 10-year period. It starts at 2006, near the peak of the real estate boom. It includes the crash in 2008 when the bubble burst, and you can see it took several years before it finally hit bottom in late 11 or early 12, and then where we've risen up from. So based upon this, you can see that prices, first off, the black line is the list price, blue line's a selling price. You can see that for this 5-county market, home prices have totally recovered everything that was lost in the crash. And in fact have climbed up above where they were back in the boom time. Now, if we draw a straight line from the peak in 2006 to now, that trend is probably fairly close to what historically would be normal. So I think we're on the right trajectory, but this is part of the reason why I'm not forecasting home prices to go up too much more. Too much of a higher rate than like the 3.8. And 3.8 is pretty much historically kind of a normal amount. And then sales, the green line, you can see it followed suit with the home prices. Although you can see that if you look at to the right side to 2016 and go back to 2006, you can see home sales actually for 2016 may have been slightly below 2006. And you can also see this gap between prices and sales. So while sales were keeping up back here in 11 and 12, in terms of rate with home price increases, home prices kept going up and sales trickled off a little bit. So that's probably meaning or could indicate that sellers are getting a little optimistic here and prices might have run away just a little bit too much. So again, this would be part of the reason behind the what is still a very good forecast, but just kind of a cooling off in terms of the number of sales increasing, and again that and kind of a historic norm on home price increase. Just a couple more things here. Here is a chart that shows interest rates. I mentioned the interest rates, and the blue line here. This is from a weekly survey that Freddie Mac does. And while local rates may vary from what's shown on here, the trend is consistent. And you can see, boy, especially around October, rates really started going up here toward year end. So that is going to, let me back up here. If you go back to the beginning of the year, the end of last year, you can see they were at 4. So we were low during the year. So where they've went to at this 4.2 level where the chart ends is not that much higher than where they were last year, but definitely higher than where they spent the bulk of the time during the year. So that is going to have an effect on affordability and I think ultimately sales. A couple other things here. This comes from the Fed Reserve. These charts do. Everything else you saw, well, the Freddie Mac chart, interest rate came from Freddie Mac, but everything else, all the home sales data, is all information that here at More Realtors, that proprietary software we've developed and data we produce that you won't find anywhere else. We also have worked very hard to make sure it's the most accurate data you'll find anywhere. So, which is a big key because you can really you can mess up big as a home buyer or a seller if you're making if your actions and negotiations are based upon false data or incomplete or inaccurate data. So this is a chart from the Fed Reserve, and it shows it's a home price index, which is the blue line that they do, and then the CPI, or the consumer price index, so the green line. So it just kind of shows for the last 40 years nearly what home prices have done versus inflation, because there needs to be some relationship. Without getting into a whole economics class here, there has to be a relationship between inflation and home prices. How much is everything else going up versus home prices? And you can see back here during the boom, home prices just left the inflation rate in the dust. So home prices were rising much more than everything else was, and of course then that led to the collapse, and they fell back down here and kind of got back in line with the trend of inflation. But you can see it's leaving here again. So that could be a kind of a leading indicator, could indicate that, well, maybe we're going to see inflation increase, so where other goods and things catch up with the home price increase, or we may see a little bit of an adjustment there in home prices. One other chart from the Fed Reserve. This one is again the house price index, and then the which is blue, and then the red line is the rental index. Now rents remain very steady, and the rental growth is, you can set your watch by it in terms of how much rents increase. So it's usually very consistent year to year, and quite frankly, rental rates on home rents, they're not affected near as much by recessions and this near depression we were in and everything else. So it's a good benchmark. And once again, home prices have to have some relationship to what rent is for the homes. Because if home prices get so expensive that it's drastically cheaper to rent the same home, then there's not much motivation to buy. And you can see here on this one the rental rates. This kind of conflicts with what I showed you on inflation. You can see that the home price index has dipped down below the rental rate. So and the rental rates trend has been a little bit more aggressive the last few years than it was the prior years. So this actually supports continued growth in home prices. So it conflicts with the inflation a little bit. Now again, all these things, you can't base your decisions on any one piece of data. And that's why one of the things we work with our agents on, train our agents, and our agents work with their clients on, is to take, and that's why you need a real estate professional to take all this stuff, put several pieces of information together, and bring it down to your level, to the subdivision that you're in, or the neighborhood you're in, or the city you're in, and apply it to that. Finally, this chart here, this shows the days on market for homes that were on the market from 2015 to 2016. I was seeing a nice decline there. So inventory's been low, and the time listings are spending on the market has been down, which is good. And this chart here shows the percentages, just breaking out those two percentages of list price that homes are selling for, the black being the original and green being based upon the current list price. Those trends are good too, to support a continued pretty positive market. So before I go, I want to share a couple of resources with you. Just like we have Data like you just saw that you won't find anywhere else, and agents that understand it, know it, and stay on top of it better than anyone else or anywhere else. We have some of the best resources to use in town. We have St. Louis's best home search site, and that is stlouisrealestatesearch.com. stlouisrealestatesearch.com. This site has everything, and I'm going to say this again, everything that comes out from the MLS, from the Realtor MLS, that goes to any website in the country, including Realtor.com. So we got all the same info. We update every 5 minutes, including all the pictures. There is not a website in the world that I know of that updates from the St. Louis MLS any more frequently than 5 minutes. For example, the big behemoth Realtor.com, they only update every 15 minutes. So we're updating 3 times more often than even Realtor.com. So you get the latest information, the newest listings, right there. The other big thing that we do on our site is how many times have you checked on a home for sale? You see it on the website, you call or you inquire, and come to find out of the 5 homes you're interested in, 3 have contracts. We try to avoid that on our site. What we do on our site is as soon as a contract is reported to the MLS, as soon as that listing is reported as having a contract on it, we remove it from our website from the search results. Now, you can still get information on that specific property if you know about it, but in terms of your searches, though, it won't come up as, appearing to you as being an active listing that you may be able to buy, like it does on so many of the other national sites. It also has some great features, such as a interactive map search. So if you have a specific area or neighborhood, just geographic range, you can easily just draw a little map and search by that. So lots of great features there, and has hundreds and hundreds of pages of information that we've created. This is not canned information, it's generic. This is stuff specific about the St. Louis real estate market that's been created by real estate agents and brokers here in the St. Louis real estate market. Then we have tables, like some of the tables and data you saw here. You can go to stlmarketdata.com, stlmarketdata.com, and you can actually pull your own reports. You can pull home sales and pricing information for houses or condos, and you can do it by city, county, or zip code. And right there at STL Market Data, we have a new product we just launched, stlmarketcharts.com, stlmarketcharts.com. By the way, all this stuff is provided free as a resource for our clients and for consumers that will soon be our clients, and hopefully. And stlmarketcharts.com, very similar to the market data, only instead of being presented in a table format, you can get information in charts. Makes it a little easier to see what's going on. And we have this down to subdivision level, so it's really great. You can actually see a chart of home prices and sales for your subdivision. You won't find that anywhere else that I know of, period. Want to know what your house, or maybe your neighbor's house, or somebody else's house is worth? Go to stlouishouseprices.com, stlouishouseprices.com. Now, all these online valuation sites, I mean, they're all only kind of an indicator of the value, because homes are a very unique commodity. It's not like gold or oil where you can just put a price on it. However, our online valuation site, I believe, is better than most of what you'll find out there. The data behind it helps the valuation that it gives on a property be much more accurate. And it's a good place to start, and then we can help really drill down into the data and determine the actual value for you. But stlouishouseprices.com. We also happen to have St. Louis's favorite open house site, where you can find all the open houses, stlouisopenhouses.com. stlouisopenhouses.com has all the open houses for the weekend. You can sort or search by a variety of ways. And that is it. That's our recap for 2016, our forecast for 2017. Again, we are more realtors. You can find us online at stlre.com, stlre.com, or give us a call, 314-332-1012 or 314-332-1010. We should be the type of real estate professionals you would want handling your sale or your purchase. Thank you, and God bless you.